What's up, YouTube? I'm Valentin the Mad, and this is a Gore review of Grand Theft Auto 5. Often when people talk about gore, it's associated with dismemberment mechanics. And while it is very important, I don't think it's the only thing that matters. There are plenty of other aspects a good gory game has to cover, and they are just as important. In my opinion, a game may not have dismemberment, but if it does the other things well, it very much deserves attention in this series. And this seems to be the case with Grand Theft Auto 5. There is no dismemberment, but the game seems to be doing pretty well when it comes to the other aspects of a gore system. In this video, we will discuss exactly that. And as always, since the experience can be significantly improved by mods, I'll be reviewing a modified game. The mods I'm using are Super 4K 2K Blood Textures mod by Poxo 900. It improves the looks of bloodstains in the game from the blurry mess you have by default. Alternate Blood Pools by the RKZ changes the looks of blood pools in the game to something much more believable. Read, also by the RKZ, is a guide to enable a permanent disabled state for characters. By default, civilians would bleed out in 2 seconds and armed characters in about 20. And 2K Blood Mist plus 256 on 412 Burn Textures by Radical Reddish. The burn textures part is more important than you think. Keep in mind that mods are relevant only for the single player, and playing online with modified files will most likely get you banned. So how gory is Grand Theft Auto 5? Let's find out. I'll be reviewing every aspect of the game's gore effects, and the score will be set based on 4 categories: body damage, environment, animations and sounds, the feel. So as I mentioned previously, there is no dismemberment in GTA 5. When you use explosives, a person may or may not be set on fire. That's right, you're using a fragmentation grenade, and the result of that is burning people. The best solution would obviously be dismemberment, but a dozen or so messy skin variations would still be better than what we have now. What I really want to focus on is vehicle caused trauma. Basically, that has no body damage too, and as far as I remember, it never had proper response in the series. You can run someone over with this massive truck and you will see no body damage. What I think should be done is scratches and bruises if you hit a person while driving in slow or medium speeds. And by the way, you do have it for player characters, but it's disabled for everyone else. And if you hit a person in high speed or actually run them over, you should have something much gorier. Whether it's crushed variations or actually something dynamic, a brutal response is needed for that kind of stuff. I bet that GTA players would be extremely careful drivers if they saw the consequences of car accidents every time they play the game. So Rockstar, if not for the sake of response, do it for the educational value. The biggest difference in GTA 5's gore system over the previous game is the introduction of bullet wounds at the point of impact. And this is how they work. You have a small wound at the point of entry and the point of exit. The clothes around it are soaked in blood, and you also have a different decal for shotgun wounds. And that right there is awesome functionality. I do think that the blood-soaked area could be larger and have a darker color to it, but those are minor details. There are actual issues though. On headshots, or basically any other hits on flesh, you will only get the decal. There is no bleeding from the wound whatsoever. I think we can all agree that some bleeding effect is necessary. The small decal alone just doesn't deliver. A lot of people have been suggesting the 3D wounds you have in Max Payne 3 or Red Dead Redemption, but I disagree. While they are a better response than the small decal, it still is a 3D object that is plastered on top of the character. A developer can do efforts to conceal it, but it is what it is, and it will often just look plain wrong. The best option would be dynamic head gore like we have in Soldier of Fortune 2, but until we have dismemberment, it's not very likely to happen. The other issue with bullet wounds is lack of variety. You do have a different wound for the shotgun, but there is no difference for the sniper rifle. You will see exactly the same response for the pistol and this huge gun. Now as for melee weapons, the body damage for stabbing is pretty awesome. You have the wound decal and bloodstained clothes, so basically it works as it should. The biggest issue is that people die way too fast, usually in just 1 or 2 stabs. Something like that should disable a person, but not kill them in most of the cases. As for the blunts, I haven't seen any response for fists, and stuff like hammers will only cause a small, very mild looking decal. Now realistically, I wasn't expecting to reenact hammer smashed face by Cannibal Corpse, but clearly something like this needs a much gorier response. As for the burning, the body damage for it does not look very good. The entire character gets a darker color, and at certain locations you have a burnt texture. Also, as you probably noticed, the characters go from unharmed to burned in a matter of seconds, which makes absolutely no sense. The animations for burning are very cool, but as it often happens, they are way too short. The character will wiggle and scream for 10 seconds tops and then just die. My suggestion is to have characters run around for about 15 seconds and then drop to the ground and wiggle for another 20 seconds or so. And here's the thing, GTA 5 is using Euphoria engine for physics integrated animations. The potential here is enormous, and it's a shame that Rockstar under-delivered on this. Blood will stain the environment on various impacts, wounded characters will leave blood trails, and you have blood pools for dead characters. Those bleeding effects are the absolute definition of basic but functional. There are no mind-blowing dynamic fluid mechanics going on here, and there are a few issues, but when I talk about basic bleeding functionality, this is what I mean. Blood stains on impact, wounded characters leaving blood trails, and blood pools under dead characters. Thank you Rockstar for getting it right. Now as for the Bloodbath Effect vs blood splatter proportions, for the most part it's just fine. It looks right for most guns with the exception of the shotgun. Slicing someone's throat will also cause a bleeding effect that goes into nowhere, and when a character falls from a height, the bloodbath is just ridiculous. But this time, those things are the exception rather than the general rule, so it's not too bad in my opinion. There are a few minor, yet very odd issues. Blood pools appear ridiculously fast. I have absolutely no idea what's up with that. And car interiors actually can't be stained in blood. It's by no means a big deal, but it would certainly be more immersive if you killed someone in their car and saw blood splattered all over the place. Especially if you later steal it and drive in first person mode. Now how is the mess in the long term? In missions the blood and bodies usually stay, but that's not the case when you go on a random killing spree. Blood and bodies will be frequently despawning. Now I can understand why it's happening. Right now, if the mess stayed permanently, I would probably end up having a single digit FPS. But I do want to have permanent mess as an option. I'm really enjoying this game, and I'll be playing it on my next upgrade and even the one after that. I absolutely want to have an option to see a full path of death and destruction when my PC will be able to handle it. The first response animations in GTA 5 are about as good as it gets. You will see characters take the hit, stumble, fall, and react to their surroundings. The animations work with physics, the transitions look very smooth, and the whole thing feels very natural. However, the big issue is what happens after the character takes the bullet and falls. Unless you send them into a disabled state, they will get up almost instantly and keep doing whatever they were doing, whether it's running away or attempting to kill you. Technically, there is a change of behavior for civilians to what kind of looks like exhausted from running animations, but it looks very mild and it doesn't look like the proper response for the damage the character has taken. Characters in Grand Theft Auto have been shot, run over, burned, beaten and stabbed repeatedly since the series launched in '97. Guess they build up crazy pain endurance, and the bullet to the stomach is no longer a big deal. Jokes aside, the next step for Grand Theft Auto needs to be the behavior after the character takes the bullet, and there's a lot of work to be done in that direction. But the game does has a disabled state at a certain threshold of health points, and thanks to Read mode, it's also permanent. Civilians will be lying in pain on the floor, while armed characters will attempt to shoot you, but will not be able to move. And yes, it is as awesome as it sounds. In shootouts or killing sprees you'll be seeing some of the characters dead and others lying in pain on the floor. I've been asking for this repeatedly in the Gore Reviews, and I'm happy to finally see it. There are a few limitations since a permanent disabled state was enabled by a mod, but it still is better than most games I reviewed. Before I move on, I should note that some armed characters will attempt to shoot you from the ground before getting up, which looks pretty awesome. There is this really cool pre-death animation. And after you technically kill the character, they will still live for a few seconds, and you will see their facial expressions change before they die and lose control of their jaw muscles. Amazing attention to detail here. As for the sounds, you have good response sounds on impacts. Characters will react on pain and scream when they die. Characters around you will start panicking and will comment on what's going on. And of course, you also have the comments of the player characters, which are quite fun. It could be more brutal and there is room for improvement, but generally it's all there and it works. GTA 5 doesn't feel bad at all. There is a body damage response for most actions, the spinning mechanics are very neat, the first response animations are amazing, and seeing wounded characters on the floor is awesome. There are issues that damage the experience and there is a lot of room for improvement, but all in all, I'm digging it. So the score for body damage is 10 out of 30. The score for environment is 16 out of 30. The score for animations and sounds is 22 out of 30. I give the feel a score of 6 out of 10. So this gives the gore system of Grand Theft Auto 5 a total score of 54 out of 100. While there is a lot of room for improvement, GTA 5 is pretty responsive and has a very decent gore system to improve upon in future games. Also, the modding community for it is very much alive, and some of the issues I mentioned may be fixed by mods in the future. Should an awesome mod for response mechanics come out, I will make a video about it. Gore aside, would I recommend this game? Absolutely! It's an amazing massive game that looks great, runs great and is fun as hell. You have about 30 hours of campaign, which is very entertaining, but most of the fun is just in messing around. Hope you enjoyed watching the review. Let me know how you feel in the comment section, and if you liked the video, subscribe and share it with your friends. You can find the link to all of my Gore reviews in the video description. Until next time.